I'm a 22-year-old chef specializing in pasta. Though I refer to myself as a chef, this field is deeply complex. I am still learning, working as an apprentice in the kitchen where I'm employed. However, my ultimate goal is to master the art of pasta making and create delicious dishes. This aspiration began when I was looking for work after leaving junior high, and the owner of the local pasta restaurant, who I'll refer to as John, offered me a chance. Having been raised by a single father, I frequently had dinner at this restaurant whenever my dad was late getting home. Thus, the flavor of the pasta from this establishment holds a special place in my heart, a sentiment I cherish and wish to preserve. As John lacks a successor, I dedicate myself to training each day to maintain that unique taste. One day, after parking my bicycle outside the shop following a delivery. "Hey, is that you, Jason?" Hearing this, I quickly turned around. There stood a person with a somewhat familiar, yet unrecognizable, face. Given that he knew my name, he must be an acquaintance, but I couldn't place him. Then he said, "Hey, don't you remember? I'm Brandon, your old classmate from junior high." That triggered my memory. "Oh, Brandon, you've changed so much, I hardly recognized you." It's no surprise I didn't immediately recognize him. Brandon had transformed significantly since junior high. The Brandon in front of me now was tall, smartly dressed, and carried himself like a successful business professional. However, back in junior high, Brandon was quite different, small, reserved, and not particularly noticeable in class. We lived nearby and often chatted, but I hadn't seen him since we graduated. I had heard he attended prestigious high schools and colleges, but I never expected such a drastic change. "What are you doing here?" Brandon inquired, and I responded promptly. "Oh, I work here at the restaurant." Brandon laughed and commented, "Really? Working at this shabby place?" His remark was frankly disrespectful. "Yeah, but you used to come here too, remember?" I remembered us both visiting this place when our parents were delayed. Brandon then said, "That's all behind me now. I've moved on. It's surprising, Jason, to see you still frequenting such a modest establishment in this small town." Huh? I couldn't comprehend why Brandon would speak to me in such a manner. It was evident he wasn't interested in a friendly conversation. Brandon wasn't like this in the past. What had changed him? More importantly, I couldn't let his disparaging comments about the shop slide. It's disrespectful to speak like that in front of the shop. If that's all you have to say, I'd appreciate it if you left. Brandon replied, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. I just felt pity for you, being in such a situation. Well, take care." He left, leaving behind those unpleasant words. True, the exterior of our restaurant isn't impressive. Originally opened by John's father, it still occupies the same old building. But the quality of our pasta is excellent, something even Brandon should acknowledge despite the shop's appearance. It was disheartening to reunite with an old friend only to find him so changed and unpleasant, but if he can only offer negativity, I'd rather not cross paths with him again. Yet, just a few days later, Brandon showed up once more. "Welcome, Brandon." Just before closing time, who should walk in but Brandon? Dressed as sharply as before, he seemed like a different person. "Hey, thought I'd try some pasta here for the first time in a while," he said. With no option but to serve him, I brought the ordered pasta to Brandon. Then, after finishing his meal, Brandon remarked, "This taste brings back memories." I was relieved. He didn't seem sarcastic today. Perhaps he was just in a bad mood during our last encounter, and this was his way of making amends. Feeling somewhat cheered, I responded, "Right." As he was leaving, I encouraged him, "Feel free to come back anytime. You might be accustomed to more upscale dining, but I think our place has its unique appeal." "Oh, thanks," he replied. After this, Brandon extended an unexpected invitation. Actually, We're planning a junior high reunion next month. I'd like you to come, Jason. Here are the details. Since leaving junior high, my focus had been on mastering pasta making, leaving little time for socializing with friends. So, the prospect of reuniting with old classmates was a delightful surprise. Really? I'll definitely be there. Thanks for the invite. I immediately informed John and decided to take the day off for the class reunion. When was the last time I had enjoyed a meal with friends? With a sense of anticipation, I went to the agreed-upon location on the day. However, upon arrival, I felt a twinge of regret. The venue was an upscale traditional restaurant. I hadn't expected such an elegant setting and had dressed casually in a hoodie and jeans. Although fashion isn't my forte, I knew I should have chosen something more suitable for the occasion. Should I go back and change? But it was nearly time to meet. Lost in thought, I heard, "Hey, Jason." I turned and saw Brandon. "Hey, Brandon. Thanks for making it," he said. I couldn't back out now. However, Brandon and the other arriving classmates, clad in jackets and dresses, made my casual attire seem out of place. "Sorry, I completely forgot to mention the dress code," Brandon apologized. I brushed off the situation with a laugh. "Looks like it. I feel somewhat underdressed and embarrassed." This helped ease the awkwardness, and the nearby classmates laughed, making me feel a bit more at ease. But Brandon's next comment stunned me. "Even if you knew the dress code, Jason, you wouldn't have anything appropriate, right? Guys, did you know he's working at that old restaurant I visited recently? It's as outdated and shabby as ever. It's like a relic from a bygone era." I had to hold back my laughter. The classmates erupted in laughter. I had hoped Brandon had changed. But he was again making disparaging remarks, just like when we reconnected. His demeanor fluctuated each time we met, and I couldn't fathom his motives. As I took my seat, Brandon's behavior dampened my enjoyment of the reunion. The dynamic among the others was strange too, as if they were vying for Brandon's favor. I hadn't continued to high school, but I realized that everyone present had attended the same high school as Brandon. While pondering whether something had transpired during their high school years. "Hey, Jason, it's been a while." Ethan approached me and said. With most classmates gravitating towards Brandon, I candidly asked Ethan, "Don't you find Brandon and the others' behavior odd? Did something happen in high school?" Ethan responded, "I wasn't in the same class, so I'm not sure, but after Brandon's father became the principal in our first year, Brandon grew more arrogant. It's a competitive school, and falling out with Brandon was seen as problematic. Since then, everyone's behaved this way. It seems the old pecking order still influences them, even after graduation." This shed light on Brandon's domineering attitude and the others' conduct. Yet, I still couldn't fully understand his harshness towards me. The party progressed smoothly, and I mostly conversed with Ethan. As it neared its end, Brandon approached me. "Having a good time?" he inquired. Concealing my mixed emotions, I replied, "Well, yes, it's been enjoyable." Then Brandon remarked, "I'm relieved. I was worried that someone like you, accustomed to simpler meals, wouldn't appreciate the cuisine at a place this upscale. It's surprising you have similar tastes to ours." He said this loudly enough for everyone to hear, eliciting laughter from the classmates. "Why are you doing this? Are you trying to belittle me?" I questioned. "Aha, you caught on. Not bad for a junior high dropout," Brandon quipped with a smirk. I was stunned. How could he so casually insult me for being less affluent and not completing school? What on earth do you have against me? It's been nearly 10 years since we last met, right? Unable to tolerate this any longer, I confronted Brandon directly. Then he whispered, audible only to me, "Don't act naive. You always looked down on me in junior high. You might have thought you were being kind to me, the short, quiet kid, but you were just patronizing. I was aware of it. Despite your own struggles, you acted superior. I've always held a grudge for that. What? I never looked down on him. I couldn't remember ever condescending anyone. But no matter what I said, Brandon remained unconvinced. See, that's your problem, always pitying me. You thought you were better because of your tough upbringing. It's sad. Just your presence annoys me, he said angrily. I always thought of Brandon as a friend. But he had perceived our relationship differently. Even though it was years ago, it still hurt. So today, I invited you here to embarrass you, and you claim to be enjoying yourself. Are you really that oblivious? Your poverty is suffocating. Just leave. At that moment, I realized the truth. I had been excited to see my old classmates, but I was never truly welcome. It wasn't that Brandon and the others had changed. It was me who remained the same. All right, I get it. I'll leave, I said, accepting the situation. There was no point in staying any longer. I gathered my things to leave quietly. Oh, look at you, so compliant. That's a loser's attitude. You'll just embarrass this place with your appearance, so better sneak out. Brandon jeered and the classmates laughed. Just as I was about to exit. Please stop, you are disturbing the other guests, a voice intervened. It was Eleanor, the owner of the upscale restaurant. Brandon was taken aback but quickly retorted. See, even she thinks you're a nuisance. Hurry up and go. However, Eleanor corrected him. You're mistaken. The real disturbance is your behavior. Your derogatory remarks are upsetting our valued regular guest. I can't overlook this. A regular, someone in another private room. They couldn't possibly hear us. Brandon argued. Eleanor clarified. No, I'm referring to Jason, who's trying to leave. He often visits with John from the restaurant. Despite being young, his dedication to pasta making is admirable. While you were relying on your parents, he was working hard. Mocking that isn't funny. It's commendable. Your education might be impressive, but you lack basic understanding and empathy. Indeed, John had frequently brought me to this restaurant. It wasn't just for the cuisine, but also to learn about the exceptional service. Eleanor's support was unexpected but deeply appreciated. How dare you speak to a customer like that? I won't return here, Brandon exclaimed, visibly offended. Eleanor responded calmly, that's fine. We prefer guests who respect others. Brandon left the restaurant, visibly frustrated. The other classmates followed him out, all except for Ethan. Thank you so much, Eleanor. When I expressed my gratitude, Eleanor smiled and said this. It's okay. I couldn't bear to see a hard-working young man like you be demeaned. You're dedicated to your path. Remember, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Her words were warmer and more comforting than anything I'd heard from anyone else before. I had chosen my own path in life and tried my best to follow it. Sometimes, I struggled with feelings of inferiority because of my background in a single-parent, low-income household and having to work since junior high. But Eleanor's words were a revelation, showing me that there's no reason to harbor such thoughts. Now, I'm more confident in continuing my journey, trusting in the path I've chosen for myself. Eleanor's encouraging words will always hold a special place in my heart.